The one thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond. The last of one's freedom is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. Viktor Frankl has a book here, Man's Search for Meaning. This is something I read a long time ago. Dad always talked about Viktor Frankl, and it hit me. I talked about Dad's attitude at his last week of life. I think this guy is the same kind of deal. That quote dictated how he lived in these camps. And I think, boy, if anybody's in a situation that is negative, that would allow his attitude to show up in a better way, is Viktor Frankl. The one thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond. The last of one's freedom is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. That man was in a terrible place, yet he still knew that he didn't have to let that affect his attitude. He did not let his outside, thanks, Trace, his outside world dictate what was going on here. And you want to talk about the negative, my God, but he did not let that impress into his mind. He stayed focused on the positive. He stayed focused on responding, on seeing the good in whatever other prisoners were around him, whatever he could do for them. He focused on the positive rather than the negative. And that alone, I believe, is what saved him and allowed him afterwards to change and alter all kinds of other people's lives because of what he had been through. He took one of the most, you read this book, it's depressing and inspiring all at the same time because of what this poor man went through. But he was able to take his negative experience. I talked about coaches that are going through a tough time. He was able to take his negative experience and alter lives for the better because of it. That is a great way to be. That is a great way to be. And that is such a prime example of what this lesson is all about.
So I do have some questions for Brian, but before we jump into the questions, I want to set the stage with something that Bob learned from Earl Nightingale. Attitude is the magic word. We've all heard that, right? Attitude is the magic word. It's not skill. Well, actually, it is a skill. It is a skill. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's a choice. It's a choice, right? Our attitude is the root vibration we bring to every conversation, like I just talked about. It's your vibration, every decision, every opportunity. And it's not just about thinking positive. It is the basic ingredient for all of our success. It is the vibration we are choosing to bring into our day, to bring into our life. No one can control your attitude. No one. As Ray Stanford said to Bob, you are the only problem and the only solution you will ever have. And Bob said that to his dying day. He said it to all of us. If I was ever a whiny boo-boo, that is what he would say to me. You are your problem and you are your solution. So figure it out. And that is what he would say. And this matters because consider that two people can be in the same circumstance, facing the same challenge with the same tools, and end up in completely different places. And that difference, it's not intelligence. It's not that 5%. It's attitude. It's that 95%. So as we explore attitude, I want you to consider something. Ask yourself this question. Trace, maybe type it in. Where in my life have I been handing my attitude over to my circumstances? Where in my life have I been handing my attitude over to my circumstances? And what would change if I reclaimed it? What would change? So with that, Brian, I'd love to start with this question. Your dad often said that attitude is the composite of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. How does someone's self-image influence their attitude, especially on days when things aren't going well?
Our attitude, it's always going to reflect how you see yourself. It just is. That's part of the self-image. If a person deep down believes they're capable, resourceful, worthy, good, then when things don't go as planned, well, they'll respond maybe with a little more creativity instead of panic. at the very least, they're able to move themselves rather quickly out of that bad attitude. But here's the deal. If someone's self-image is built on doubt, they feel like they're not enough, that same situation will pull that person into frustration, blame, maybe even, kind of shut yourself down. This is why that self-image work, a poor self-image has the ability to sabotage almost everything that we do. So doing that work first is critical. So they really tie themselves together. The thing about attitude is that it doesn't really come from circumstance. It comes from the meaning you give the circumstance. And that meaning comes from your self-image. So the real work is not forcing a good attitude. It's upgrading the image that you hold of yourself so that a better attitude really becomes natural. It's not a performance. That's the deal. It's not like just showing up as Mr. or Mrs. Jolly. It's not showing up as a performance. It's showing up as who you are. When you change the way you see you change the way you see everything else. It's, as I said earlier, our attitude towards life is life's attitude towards us. And that's it.
I love what you said there. It's the way you see you. That is why at the end of each lesson, there is an opportunity for you to do a weekly self-image check-in, because that is something you should always be checking in with yourself about, because it really does affect everything you're doing.
It's time to create the life you've always dreamed of.
I'm Brian Proctor. This is Proctor's Principles. I do know how fortunate I am to call Bob Proctor my father. This is my way of sharing that privilege with you.
If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.